Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So last time we talked about the potential story beats emerging from the Nefele Stronghold Rasputin lore. Whilst that lore is some of the most important stuff that might pertain to next season, I think we've got to talk about some other aspects of the Warmind's current state to really understand how the future might pan out for Rasputin. In the last video, I already went over some of the stuff to do with Rasputin's current state. If you did see that video, then feel free to go ahead and skip over the next few minutes as I briefly explain what's going on. Suffice to say, the short version is that he's not completely there. The long version, for those of you who didn't watch that last video, is this. Rasputin was in a greater operative state than he'd been in a long time at the end of the Season of the Worthy. The hubs throughout the system that contained his influence were now reconnected to his main installation in the Hellas Basin on Mars. Several new series of warsats had been launched, some from Hellas Basin on Mars, and others from specially designated launch platforms that were used to counter the Almighty. More of Rasputin's bunkers were being reconnected to his network, and as a result Rasputin was aware of the incoming Black Fleet, and was committed to working with Anna Bray and the Vanguard to oppose its forces. And then, calamity struck. The start of the Season of Arrivals saw Rasputin being defeated in a matter that was nothing short of calamitous for us. In an instant, his core systems were instantly taken offline, and functionally he was destroyed or deleted. It's worth noting that the nature of all of this is, well, a little terrifying as far as the spectacle of power is concerned. Remember that Rasputin is mighty enough to fight against the Vex, an enemy that has such incredible causal power that its mathematics are sometimes strong enough to defeat a Guardian. Rasputin is easily able to best them, but when facing against the forces of the Witness, a supreme paracausal force, the effort seemingly displayed in dismantling the Warmind and its rejection of the Witness was nothing more than a hand wave, as one might see in metaphor. They dismantled Rasputin in the same way that we might accidentally step on an ant. It was nothing to the Black Fleet. His hardware was left empty and his software was decimated. However, he was not completely destroyed. Thanks to some clever work by Anna Bray and her ghost Jinju, he was saved. This moment is recorded in the lore book Duress and Egress, under the entry Anna, Frayed. It reads as follows. She had tried everything. The Great Bray. A lineage that promised to save them. For all her genius and moxie, this was beyond her. Rasputin lay dying in a dozen empty screens splayed out around Anna's command station. She could visualize the bleeding code running through her fingers. Zavala's voice was in her ear as ambient haze, relegated to the background of her mind like distant gunfire. The image of the pyramid's distortion wave was still raw. This wasn't an attack, it was a command, a lazy dismissal of all their best laid plans. There were no explosions, no blaring sirens or sparks of dramatic electricity, nothing to combat or fix. Just a Guardian, walled in silent black glass, and disbelief. She had been so sure. Anna's eyes tracked Jinju as the ghost sped from console to console, attaching strings of light to each. They slowed her as she went, buried under some load. Anna? Jinju's voice was strained under crushing distortion. I think I've got him. Most of him. But not for long. The words cutting through the distant gunfire. What? Anna asked. Her voice came softly at first, unsure what form to take as the information processed. What? Jinju groaned and whispered in exasperated, Pillory! Engram! It's not ready. Anna, now! He'll go insane. I can't. The light tethers attached to Jinju began to pop one by one. It's this or nothing! The prospect sent Anna tearing across the room. She belted a command into the air and a floor safe opened in response. Anna snatched the dodecahedron enclosure from the safe and braced it in front of Jinju. Jinju, do it! The ghost's shell reformed to forge a directed structure before her core, erupting with light and data. A stream of pure information beamed into the engram, filling it with spiraling wisps of light. Did you? As much as I could. Outside the windows, bolts of atmospheric friction dragged flames through the sky as warsats plummeted from low-orbit defensive positions. Their impacts were distant. Rasputin barely survived this affair. It's a testament to everyone involved, really, that we stand here in the first place, though. A testament to the ingenuity of Jinju and Anna Bray that they could have even recovered a fractured portion of what remained of the Warmind, and also a testament to Rasputin's resilience, that he was able to at least partially withstand an attack of this nature from such a deadly paracausal foe. I made such a clear point about how easily the witness seemed to dismiss Rasputin, and yet, withstanding a degree of power from a paracausal force such as this one makes Rasputin, well, unique. It may be the case that he is one of the only causal beings of any kind to have truly withstood a full assault from the darkness. But again, we don't know that for sure because it's hard to speculate on such things when the darkness has left us no history with which to compare. Either way, I think it fair to say that the Warmind is stronger than we thought. Following on from this moment, Anna Bray and Jinju would depart Mars at the end of the season of arrivals, but they would not be alone. They would bring the Warmind with them, and a chassis in which it would soon, hopefully, be able to be returned to life. Take a listen to the lore entry in question. As Anna Bray watched the Guardian's Sparrow rocket across Hellas Basin for the last time, she saw a confidant who had believed in her when no one else would. That faith, Zavala had reminded her, was a bond with more power than all the Warmind weapons in the system. It was a promise to go on, an agreement that there was still a future. Jinju had called it reverse salvage. She knew a thing or two about building something from the wreckage of their past. The building was nearly empty. She had sent as much tech to the tower as they could handle, an entire freight vessel's worth, packed to bursting. She turned to the large glass window overlooking silent warsat cannons. There were no Cabal. The death beneath Mars had quieted. Valkyrie subroutines that could be maintained remotely remained active, just in case. Jinju ran final checks on the jump ship. A dark pyramid loomed overhead. An experimental exo chassis was secured in the ship's cargo hold, one foot in front of the other. Anna evacuated with this experimental exo chassis and the pillory engram containing Rasputin and took both of them to the tower, and from there she began working on the experimental exo frame as a solution to recover Rasputin. It's been well over a year since then, and Anna Bray has made middling progress at best. Her latest attempts to recover the Warmind, however, were only possible due to the assistance of our new coalition allies that have been newly welcomed to the tower. We previously welcomed the Elixni Splicers in the Season of the Splicer, but now Anna's efforts have been reinforced not only by their technology, but by the powers of the Scion Optuses as well, with a combination of Braytech, technology of the Scions, and Splicer tech from the Elixni. Anna's efforts are now born anew. In particular, the Scion Optus' ability to create a mindscape or a similar space within the minds of those that they touched was a tool that Anna could use to further search for signs of life within the Warmind. We see the results of such an experiment in the Grand Overture Exotic Weapon lore tab from this season, a lore tab which reads as follows. So, you're the new guy? Anna Bray cracks a half smile. Can't be worse than the last Scion that Red and I dealt with. She impatiently taps her heel on her workbench as the Scion hurriedly checks linkages and nodes on the neural coupling device around her head. Words and images skip across Anna's mind like stones. Remain calm. Even though you are defenseless, I do not possess a starship. A sound resembling laughter follows. For those of you who didn't catch the intricacies of this joke, there's two folds to it. First of all, yes, I do not possess a starship as a reference to how Amtech, a Scion, tried to drop the Almighty on the tower and basically nuke the lost city with it. So, yes, it's a little dry humor made with the dark undertones that happened in the story. The last scions that Red and Anna encountered, though, is another side to all of this, and for those of you who do remember, the last time there was a serious interaction between Rasputin and scions and Anna Bray was an adventure that you could do on Mars before the planet was sunset in Destiny 2, and that was a moment at which the scions were basically trying to steal and use Rasputin's tech in order to convert its energy and ascend into scion flayers. We swiftly dealt with them and killed any flayers that did emerge, but still, there's a little bit of a sour taste. I think it's good that the scion in question is, well, trying at very least to smooth things over. Anyway, back to the lore. Funny, Anna chuckles impatiently. Okay, I've been setting this up for months. Are you done with the safety checks? Jinju flies by Anna and runs a scan over the engram. Be nice. A digital timepiece drains towards 0 while the scion inundates her mind with questions. Mylight, splicer tech, brain tubes. Yeah, I got it, Anna says. Plug my brain into Red already and let's do this. Her voice quickens with excitement. The scion finishes linking cables to a splicer tech receptacle housing Rasputin's engram and gives Anna an awkward thumb pointing up. The scion forms an interlocking image in her mind, a tangle of wires. Slowly, her perspective shifts through them and stops at a radiant center. She hears the words, "Forgotten vestige, made remembered." "That's the plan, Pastan," Anna exclaims. "Drop me in, I can already hear the Tchaikovsky." She stares down at the ticking timer. 3, 2, 1. Anna blinks. She stands in a vast thicket of thorn and rot. A warmth radiates from deep within the thicket. Anna blinks. She presses through bramble as barbs draw blood. Her sense of self wavers. She finds her grip on a searing hot spike, shifting her senses red like an adrenal rush. Anna blinks. She kneels at the spike and rips it from the ground. A Valkyrie javelin is in her grasp. Anna blinks. The thorned vines around her recoil and wither in the heat. She feels something within the javelin, faint and weak, but alive. So it's not clear what the thicket of brambles that is drawing blood from Anna in this is, but considering that it's a vast thicket of rot and thorn, I think that it's potentially something that has been left over from the influence of the darkness when it killed Rasputin. Although that is questionable, considering that the Valkyrie is then able to cleanse away some of this, seemingly. It's something which causes the thorn and vines to recoil and wither in the heat. And if we are to believe that one of these powers is causal and the other is paracausal, this doesn't necessarily make all the sense. Either way, it's still something which leads us to an ultimate conclusion, which is that Rasputin, the Warmind, is still alive, and that thanks to her new allies, Anna might soon be able to make progress in resurrecting him. All of this is dependent on time and resources. I think we know one good thing about this and one bad thing. The good thing is that the efforts to revive the Warmind are bearing fruit because of the new allies of the Coalition. It gives me hope to know that Rasputin might stand as physical progress of the improvement to all our standing that can be done when we as a coalition work together. Thanks to the intervention of scions and Eliksni splicers, Rasputin will be able to defend all the coalition allies if he's revived, and this strengthens our position generally. This is a point at which we can sit there and start to more easily associate with the Cabal Ascendancy and the House of Light, and this is something we need desperately. But the bad thing about all of this is that from here on out we know that the Warmind's revival is a matter of our most precious resource: time. Every day the Black Fleet pushes a little deeper into the system, and every day it becomes more and more likely that they will discover something crucial to our survival. The resources of the differing factions within our alliance are surely soon going to wane. If and when they do, it may not be possible to fully revive Rasputin or to obtain any reasonable use from what remains of him. We need more time to awaken the Warmind. But unfortunately, time is running out. That's all from me for today though. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed the lore, go ahead and leave a like as per usual. I'm very thankful to everyone who does, because you know what? Yeah, making these videos and putting them all together is worth it, knowing that you guys are looking for my input on stuff in particular. It's always nice to go ahead and read you all a story, but it gives me a real joy to know that you guys are looking for my take on things in particular as well. That's, amongst many other talented lore masters in Destiny's community, that matters. So, thank you. Of course, you can also do all the other typical stuff. Hit subscribe if you're so inclined. We are on that approach to 1 million, so go ahead, and if you've not gone there, jump in. I understand that sometimes people just want to come along and watch though, and if you do, that's fine. That's why at the end of most of my videos I also say something along the lines of, as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me. And know that it is. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Rhodacia ad Astra. I'll see you, Starside.